Hey there guys, old man Chris again. Managed a little bit more time in the shop, albeit bit here, bit there over 2 or 3 days. What I wanted to make was this. You'll see closer of it later. It's a spider for the spindle rear. There were several problems to overcome to make it, and I had to make, you'll see in the video clips, I had to make quite a few bits. This piece is for the spindle and the new collar, almost the same size but not quite. That's a tight tolerance, and that was able to set it up to get marked out for roll pins that engage my spindle handle. And then the other piece, because we had to drill 4 holes for bolts. This is an arbor that we made up. This is 1 inch for an 1'5" collet in the collet block. This took the collar. You might just see there are some holes in it. That's where the drilling stopped. And then we put barely a 50% thread on the end here so it could be locked up. Anyway, you'll see all that. And got loads of clips actually, because some of them are short, some of them are disastrous. I had a Bozo moment. Well, you'll see this closer up later on. You'll see there are 4 holes there instead of 2. You'll find out why. Nothing goes completely right, does it? But a lot of it was the problem of trying to accommodate the bearing thrust ring on the back end of the spindle, which is not very large, and it proved a bit of a problem. So there we are. I think that's about it. You can watch through. I don't know, I might even make this in 2 parts. It's probably going to be dragging on with so many stages, particularly all the lathe turning, just to achieve a result. But sometimes that happens. You've got to make jigs, fixtures in order to get a reasonable result. The next thing in mind, because I usually don't know what I'm doing next, do I? But this time I think I do. My friend Terry, you may remember he made a very nice cross-drilling tool post jig. He's made another item for me, and it's extremely nice. I'm very proud of it. I'm very thankful for the fact that he made it for me. There's a little bit of work to do to get it set up. I won't tell you more. Hopefully the next video will be a description of it, and once I've made 1 or 2 bits and modified, I can show it to you in use. Okay, that's it. Carry on, talk amongst yourselves and see what the hell's coming next. Well, here's a 10-inch length of mystery material, not unusual, coming out of my scrap bin sort of thing. It's 60mm, and I want a 2-inch slug, which won't have to be all that large. So I'm just going to turn down here, take about 1 inch. It already had a centre hole which was useful, so I've just set it up on that. So turn down a slug, and then we'll cut that off in the bandsaw and then work on it from there, I think. Right, I only want another 10 thou off. 2 thou OD is fairly nominal to suit the back of the spindle, which I'll show you later. You'll see what's going to happen. I think I might take a slight skim back here for chucking concentricity purposes, and maybe cut myself a bigger chunk initially. That's not too bad. Actually, I think to make life easier later on, I'm going to just come back an inch and a bit before I cut it, and that'll give me something decent to go in the chuck. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, bandsaw time. I'll just get this faced off, take a couple of passes. As usual, it doesn't cut absolutely square on the bandsaw. Because I wasn't quite on centre there, I'll adjust that. Yeah, the tool's about a couple of thou low. I'll just break this edge. It's fairly nice. Not that this end matters. So we'll flip it round. Now I'll get this faced off. Hopefully that's sufficiently on centre. So I'm going to bore through to just beyond this smaller OD and bore it out to nominally an inch. I think that's alright. Fairly minimal cut, bit of rust coloration. So I think here we'll do, I'll get a decent pilot, go as large as I dare on this machine, which isn't always that large because I don't think my tailstock has quite the rigidity that I'd like. Maybe another project for later. I've put the back gear in. This should be a fairly reasonable 13mm stub. Try and get through with that. Alright, that'll do. You see, one of the problems I got, apart from the rigidity of the tailstock, is getting enough grip on an MT2. It's very easy to get a little bit too much feed and then everything spins. I'll see what I can do with that. I've got a very small boring tool actually, which might enable me to get started as small as that. Well, this might almost be amusing. I've got this really very tiny boring tool. I have a feeling it's solid carbide. and I can't remember where I got it, but it's ideal for getting into a small hole. So I'm going to enlarge this, which was 13mm. I'm going to enlarge that a little bit until I can get something bigger in. I'm taking very careful cuts. I won't bother you with much more of that because you can't see much once the tool post gets going. So get that enlarged. It's going to finish up, well, in theory, 1/16", which is my spindle bore, but I may only take it 2" for practical purposes. I've never had 1/16 down the spindle, so probably 1 a bit will be my target. Right, I managed. Having opened it up just a bit, I've got one of my old favourites. This is quite a useful. Of course, any time you're using a small boring bar, you're always going to get, in my experience anyway, you're always going to get a spring cut on the return, and with that first one, you'd actually get a second spring cut going in on the same setting. I'll take a cut with this one and then soldier on. Got quite a bit of material to get rid of, but I can take a bigger cut with this one. Even on this one there's a very slight spring cut on the return. So I'm going to persevere. Keep getting some material out of there, and I'll bring you back when we're getting close to the final size. I've only got another 32 thou to come out. It actually went quicker than I thought. Actually, despite the fairly rigid boring bar, if I take a spring cut in a minute, I'll probably find there's a thou to come off. Let me just check this. What I'm thinking here is, whilst I measure this, 973, I think that is. I've got about 14 thou to go actually. And what I'm going to do here is finish up with it being 1 inch plus. Probably something like inch. I'm just trying to think. I want to be able to get 1.25mm through, but I have to allow for centering, so I ought to go a little bit plus on inch. Anyway, we'll get to the inch mark first. And that should leave me a 4 thou cut. I'm only heading for inch, just as a sort of discipline really, even though I'm going to go bigger. But out of interest, on that setting, let's see if we get about a thou spring cut. I expect you could see that, and I think as many people find, even with large boring bars, there's almost always going to be a little bit of spring. Let's check again. As I say, I don't really need exactly the inch. I'm just wanting to get to it before I decide how much extra I'm going to add. I'm now, yeah, that's about 5 thou shy of the inch. If I take another 3, I should be able to get a test piece in to show that I've got an inch with some relief. I came out pretty slow because still a slight spring cut on the return. Oh, there you are, that's sweet. Even getting a piston effect. Well, it just shows you, without a DRO, we can still get, let me just get a marker on there. See if I've gone in far enough. Oh, yep, that's good. So the thing is, how much extra to give myself, because it's going to be very difficult to get this absolutely dead centered on the back of the spindle. So there needs to be a little bit of leeway, and then 4 adjustment screws for final centering. To give that some thought. As a matter of fact, having just checked the rear of the spindle, and I'll show you later when we get round to that end, the final piece is actually a tightening collar which preloads the Timken bearings, and the diameter of that, it's not 1/16, it's actually just over the inch. I hadn't checked for a long time. So what I might do is I'll take that ring off later and make a little plug from scrap which fits that and fits this. So I think I'll just give this another, I'll just give it another thou, which will be, leave just a little bit of leeway. No, let's make it 2 thou. Right. So that actually leaves it 4 thou over, which means a piece of inch material will go through nice and easy with a little bit of play. But if I get this centered on the end of the spindle with, as I said, a big piece of scrap turned to a good fit, then if I'm using inch, the centering shouldn't be much of a problem. That'll be minimal setup, but anything below an inch, which is where the problems arise, if you've got a long piece of 1/2 inch and it's not dead straight, it's going to splash around all over the place, and that's when we want the 4-point adjustment. Alright, I'll put a chamfer on that. I think that'll about do it. I've got to part this off and face the other end, and I think we're over to the mill. I'm going to get this piece parted off. I've made a start. I was going to mention I'm using my spider actually. You may or may not see down here, just for convenience, having got it in position, it's taped to a jaw. Just a strip of tape so it doesn't shift around. Bit crude, but it works. I don't think my parting blade is absolutely dead fresh, to be honest. I'm getting quite a way through there, but it is singing slightly. But I'm getting a cut slowly. Not quite the best of chips, but it's getting there. Right, it's pretty close. I'm just going to check my depth. Well, it's very close now. I'm running it probably a little bit faster than I want to, but it's a fiddle setting up the back gear. Alright, it's got the bugger off. It took a little while. So I say, I don't think this parting blade is absolutely spot on for sharpness, but it's done the job. Got this back in the chuck, and I think it should run fairly true enough anyway. And just take a quick, it's quite a fine finish actually from the parting tool, because it was a slow cut, but I'll take a facing pass. Haven't got my air on yet. I'll just chamfer the in and out. And then that's over to the mill, I think, pretty much. And forget where I put half my damn tools. Just do the same trick as I did earlier. It's a fairly quick way to get quick clean up on there. That'll work. That'll work. Right, now I've got to work out some other things. Well, I've got another couple of stages to go. This may not be the simplest approach, but it's just one that occurs to me. I want to put 4 90-degree bolts in here, screws, for centering adjustment, but I want to be able to index it fairly easily, and the easiest way really is to set this up somehow on a collet chuck, collet block I should say, in the vise and the mill. So I got this little piece of spare. I'm going to turn that down to be a tight fit in here, put a thread on the end for a bolt so we can cinch this up against a shoulder, and then turn down the other end to I don't know, I have to check my collets, 7/8 possibly. I can't remember what my largest one is. Alright, taking that down. It's about half a thou under the bore size, so it goes on, and when I come to use this, because this will be sacrificial, this is going to have 4 drill dimples going into it, so it's not going to be much use afterwards. And I'll use some CA glue on there for the purpose of the 4-point drilling, and then heat it up to get it off later. So I've got to turn that down to something suitable for a nut. I'll see what nuts I've got. Don't say anything. Don't say a thing. And the largest nut I can lay my hands on is this one. It's a 5/8 Whitworth, 5/8 11. For my British friends, they'll know about it. It happens to be convenient. The trouble is, it's a very deep coarse thread, So I'm going to turn down a piece here. I'm going to go well below 0.625. I'm going to go for about a 50% thread, and then I'll use the tailstock die holder and hopefully cut enough thread to do the job. Alright, again, lots of turning, messing. I won't bore you with all that. Let's take another 1/10 thou off that. That'll get me down to about 570, 575. So it'll be a pretty light thread. .576, that'll do. And pop a fairly generous lead in on it and see if I can get the die to cut. The whitworth is a very, very coarse thread. Very coarse thread. Slight digression. For those who may not have seen a description of this before, my tailstock die holder has two components. That's one of them, which has got the two smallest sizes, one in the front and then one behind. And then the main one, which gets used most, we've got this largest size on the outside and there's the smaller underneath. So this covers two sizes. And then we've got sliding there on an M2 arbor. That's basically all there is to it. And a hole there for a cross rod for basically holding it against chuck rotation. I'll get this set up. Well, we've got a start on it, and although it's a crazy coarse thread, so I'm only cutting a 50%, so I think we'll be alright. I haven't got too much further to go. Okay. Use the spindle handle now. I don't know whether that's going to be enough. Probably got to cut a bit more than that. As you can see, it's a very, very partial thread, but it's a hell of a job to cut one of these to absolute full depth. So with that and a washer, I think I've got to just go to, oops, I think I've got to go a tiny bit more, and I've got a fairly thick washer, but I might not actually need CA glue on there if I get a good tightening. Yeah. Alright, that'll do the job. I say it's a very incomplete thread. It's probably not even quite a 50%, but it's all I need for the purpose. Fortunately, I've got a 1 inch on the 5C, so I haven't got to take much off here. Boy, have I got some chips. Yeah, it was my R8 series. It doesn't go up 2 inch. So let's take another 20 and check it. Got about another 12 thou to come off. It should be about a thou oversize in theory. Whoops. Yeah, I've got to take a little bit more, not very much, and then we'll try the collet. Just a tickle now, hopefully. Right, I haven't mic'd it up again, but that tool doesn't give a very good finish when it's a very fine cut. I'm probably still half a thou over. Yeah, it's a fraction tight. I think I'll just do some paper on that and give it a bit of a polish. Okay, bit of a polish, probably a couple of tenths maybe. This made all the difference. There we are. So, I think we can go to the mill. I've got one more piece to make on here actually, thinking about it, because although I haven't taken you around the back end of the headstock, I've got to find a good way of matching this centre to the centre of the rear of the spindle, which is the bearing tensioning ring. So I've got to make something for that yet. I'll probably do that off camera, but otherwise we're going to the mill, I think. Matching plug, shall we say. This is for the spindle end, and I'm going to flip it round in a minute, and the other end is going to be a good fit for the this big collar. So I've just checked that I've got to fit 030. This is 029 and a couple of tenths. It should be a decent fit, maybe a little tight, but hopefully a good fit. But before I take this out here, I just want to face this end off. That'll work. It saves putting another cutter in. So I'm going to flip that round and start cutting the other end. I haven't tried this side yet, but I took it very accurately to a hopefully suitable measurement. This one's about half a thou shy of the 1.004 on here. That's good. It's an easy fit, but there's no slop. That was a quick face off, but that'll work. I'll tidy it up a bit more, then I think we can get to the mill. Then we got some fun and games to sort out.